I laid out like all weekend trying to get some color, so I'm not just like so aggressively pale for you. But I just don't get color. I either burn or I just stay pale, and I'm really trying not to burn. I'm trying to be better about my skin. But anyways, we're here to do my wrap up. So last month I had only read 8 books, so I was thinking my wrap up would be super quick. Oh my god, I forgot to put in earrings. I can put them in while I talk. So I thought last month was going to be super quick because I barely read any books, and that video still ended up being long. So we're gonna try to, you know, keep it moving through this wrap up, because this month I read 15 books. I read a lot. Like, this was what I averaged last year, so I definitely felt like good about my reading. And yeah, and also I read like a lot of good quality. Like I had quite a few 5 stars. I even had a favorite book of the entire year. So, you know, we're feeling good. We're feeling good. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. So the first ones that I'm not really even going to touch on, because I uploaded a reading vlog with all of my thoughts for these 3 books last week. So I read 3 of the books in the Like Us series by Kristen Becker-Ritchie. So Alphas Like Us, which is Mafi and Pharaoh's 3rd book in the series. Then I read Tangled Like Us, which is Jane and Thatcher's 1st book in the series, and Sinful Like Us, which is Jane and Thatcher's 2nd and last book in the series. So I read all 3 of these this past month. I literally, 2 of my favorite books I'm going to read the entire year. God tier books for me. I loved them, but if you want to hear my full thoughts, you can go ahead and watch that vlog. Next, I finished The Bride Goes Rogue by Joanna Shupe. I was like, why didn't I write down the author? So this is the 3rd book in, I don't know what the series is called. It's a historical fiction. I had read The Lady Gets Lucky, which is book 2 last year, fell in love with it, absolutely adored it, and I wanted to keep going in the series, and this one was on my Hoopla, so I finally got my hold in for it and was able to listen to it, and I really enjoyed this one. So this one follows Catherine, and she has been arranged to marry this one man, and she has been, you know, like saving herself, and finally she's like, you know what, it's time for him to marry me. So she shows up to his office, to Preston's office, and is like, hey, so like, can we set a wedding date? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm not marrying you. And she's like, yes, your father made a deal with my father, we're getting married. And he's like, yeah, no, my father's dead, I'm not being held to any sort of deal that they had made, and I'm not marrying you. So she decides to go rogue, and she's like, you know what, I'm gonna go out and have my fun then, because I've been not having any fun waiting around for you. And she ends up doing that, but then, you know, she maybe accidentally meets Preston again out, and he doesn't realize who she is, she doesn't realize who he is, and they start having a little bit of fun. So it's an arranged marriage, but like, you know, he's pretty resistant to it, and it goes from there. It was really good. I really enjoyed it a lot. Lady Gets Lucky is still my favorite out of the 2, but I did really enjoy this one, and we'll definitely be reading the 4th book. I don't think the audio's out yet on my Hoopla, but when it is, I would definitely be reading the next one. Next, I listened to another, I had 3 audiobooks? I had 4 audiobooks this month. I had quite a few. Next up, I listened to Set by Alexandria House. So this one I've seen quite a few of my friends talk about and recommend. However, none of Alexandria House's books are on KU, I believe. So then I found a bunch of them on Hoopla, and I was like, sick. So this one's a novella, and I really enjoyed this one. It was hot. So this one follows Set and what was her name? Karima. I don't know how old they are, but it was like a chance encounter at a high school reunion that these 2 met back up and like hit it off. And Karima, is she divorced? She has a daughter, and she like runs a daycare, and she just has like a lot of responsibilities, but then kind of like her one thing that she gets to take for herself is her relationship with Set, and it is their romance, and it's told kind of like going back and forth between like where they are in the present and like hooking up, seeing each other, even though they are long distance, and like flying to meet each other. And then also back when they like met at this high school reunion and hit it off for the first time there. And it was just really good. It was really hot. It was really fun. It was quick. I enjoyed. Next, I read Snow by Sophie Lark. This one disappointed me. It's probably my least favorite Sophie Lark book that I've read so far. I still really enjoyed it, and like I still would recommend, but it's just not my favorite. I was kind of a little disappointed by it. So this one follows Snow and Sasha, and it's, I don't know what this series is called. Is it like her Underworld series or something? But it's one that I had to read in order to read Kingmakers. So I wanted to get this one read and done with, so that way I can move on to Kingmakers, which I'm very excited to do soon. But this one takes place in Russia. So Snow is a boxer. He doesn't really have any family, doesn't really have anyone in his life, so he's kind of just like on his own. And the mafia has been trying to recruit him because of that reason. Like, it's great that he's unattached and like doesn't really have anyone around to be caring for. He ends up meeting Sasha, who she is returning home from university, and she realizes that her parents are in some pretty big trouble. Her dad has gotten in debt to the mafia. The restaurant that he owns is in danger of closing, and he's just put them in a really bad position. And she kind of takes it upon herself to kind of help dig them out, because otherwise, like, her dad is going to be killed. And she offers a deal with one of the mafia bosses that she will be their doctor because she graduated from med school, that she will work as a doctor for them in order to work off her dad's debts. And the mafia boss obviously agrees because it's like a great offer for him. And he's like, basically, then you have like a life contract with me, kind of. And she makes that deal. And that is when she meets Snow, because the mafia is putting on these boxing matches. He is one of the boxers, and they end up meeting and they end up falling in love. But obviously they're not supposed to be together, but regardless, I did like this one. It's just that, I don't know, they just weren't like my favorite Sophie Lark couple, you know? And I didn't like love the pacing of it, where like some of her books, I feel like they grabbed me from the beginning, and this one just didn't. I don't know, I still enjoyed it, but yeah, in terms of like Sophie Lark's books, not my favorite so far. Next up, I read Wretched or Wretched, I don't know, by Emily McIntyre. So this one is the third book in her Never After series. However, you don't need to read them in order because they're all standalones and like are different fairy tales. So this one is a Wizard of Oz retelling. So here's the thing, I've never watched Wizard of Oz. Don't come at me. My mom never showed it to me when I was younger because there's a dog, I guess, that gets like taken away by flying monkeys, and she knew that it would upset me. And it would still upset me to this day. So I'm not watching it. I don't care. I can live my life without watching it. However, I think if you did know the story, you'd maybe like pick up on the elements in here that are very like Wizard of Oz inspired, obviously. But I just enjoyed it as a whole because here's the thing. So Evelina is our heroine in this one, and her family runs a drug business, and she makes the drugs for them. Like, she's a really smart like chemist, I guess, I don't know, drug maker. And it's definitely like bad boy, good girl, because then our hero is Nicholas, and he is an undercover cop who's trying to infiltrate and bust Evelina's family. And obviously when he's undercover with Evelina, he ends up falling in love and wanting to protect her. It's so good. Like, I still think Scarred is my favorite, but I loved this one. I loved Evelina's character. I love a bad girl, good boy combo. Well, normally I actually like when they're both bad, but like I just especially love a bad girl and like an anti-hero heroine, you know, anti-heroine. You know what I'm trying to say. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed this one a lot. I'm just really liking these audiobooks, especially. I've listened to both the audiobooks for Scarred and this one now, and was blown away by both of them. Really, really enjoyed, would definitely recommend. Next up, I read Close Quarters by Candy Steiner. I liked this one. Not my favorite Candy Steiner book I've read. Love Letter to Whiskey still holds that spot for me, which I don't think that one's gonna be beat. That one is just like, that book is just a true treasure. But anyways, this one follows Aspen and Theo. So Aspen's boyfriend is a person who works on a yacht, and he's getting ready to go on work over the summer on this one boat, and she joins him just to kind of like send him off. But when she is on this boat, Theo, the billionaire who owns this yacht and is like employing her boyfriend, he sees her and sees that she's like a photographer and is kind of like attracted to her and into her. So he offers for her to come along for the summer and like work taking pictures. Like, then she can just travel, take pictures when he like hosts people on the boat, you know, but otherwise just kind of get like a free ride around the world for the summer. And she agrees, even though she is very much like a homebody and does not like to be social and like out and around people. She's just very much an introvert. And the idea of being trapped on a boat, not like trapped, but living on a boat with a bunch of people for the summer when her boyfriend is very, very social and likes to go out and do stuff is just like a little daunting, but she can't really pass up the opportunity, and she ends up going on the boat for the summer, and her and Theo start to like get this attraction between the two of them. But he's like, I'm not gonna do anything with you while you're dating your boyfriend. And she just doesn't really know how to like break up with her boyfriend, and it ends up being their romance. Is there cheating in this? Do they actually? I think there's definitely emotional cheating. I don't know if they actually like get together or like even kiss while she's still dating her boyfriend. But anyways, it goes from there. So it's like the forced proximity and billionaire. I did enjoy this one. It's definitely like fun for the summer, and I love below deck. So I liked that I knew some of the yachting terms. I felt very smart because my below deck education is thorough. However, like it just wasn't my favorite romance. I think my biggest struggle was Aspen. She's just very much an introvert, which like, no, like I love introverts. I would consider myself an introvert actually. However, when she's just like, I just want to stay in my room all day, it's like same, but also that's boring to read about. So at certain points I was just like, girl, I don't know. She just like, she didn't sell me, but I really liked Theo. Next up, oh, I needed something fun. So I read Primal by Jenica Snow. So this one is a novella. And it's a wild time. It's a Goldilocks and the Three Bears novella. And the heroes are all literally bears. It's a monster romance. And so Goldilocks, I don't remember what her name is in the story. We're going to call her Goldilocks. I don't know if her name actually was. But Goldilocks, her family, like she's been raised in this one village or whatever. And something happens to all of her family. They all die or something like from this famine. So she's just like in the woods by herself. And these bears have been watching her. They had a run-in when she was younger, and they've just been kind of like keeping a watchful eye on her as she grows up and like protects her. And then now that she's an adult, they're like, we want to claim her as our mate. And they end up taking her to their little cabin, and the three of them, you know, get with her. That's all you need to know. It's just hot. It's fun. It's crazy. It's enjoyable. And you know, if you need something quick and just, like I said, just like fun, this is where it's at. So really enjoyed that, honestly. Next up, I listened to TheReluctant Bride by Monica Murphy. So this one is actually part of the Midnight Dynasty series, which, in case if you didn't know, is a big universe that a bunch of authors wrote a character and like some of their books for. So like Pam Godwin, Lessons in Sin, that's a part of this. Gianna Darling's Beautiful Nightmare Duet, that's a part of this world. And then so Monica Murphy has one of the Constantine siblings that she's writing for. So Perry is the hero in this one. And it's just like a bunch of billionaires and like feuding families in the city and stuff. They're really fun. I've loved all of the Midnight Dynasty books that I've read, and this was no exception. I definitely enjoyed this one. So this one, Perry obviously is he the second youngest he's the second oldest Constantine brother, I think. But his mother is like, you know what, I need to arrange a marriage for you, and I'm going to arrange a marriage for you with, what was her name? Charlotte. Rival family's daughter. And Charlotte at first is like, I do not want to be a part of this arranged marriage. I don't even like Perry. Like he's like arrogant and rich, and he's always got like a different girl on his arm. Like, I just don't want to be dealing with him as my husband. However, she has a really bad relationship with her dad. Her dad is a piece of garbage, and she is ready to get out from underneath his thumb, out from under his house and his authority. So she's like, you know what, if this marriage is going to get me out of like his way, then I will go ahead and go along with it. And she has a past where she didn't like bring shame upon her family, but her dad will never let her forget it, that when she went off to college, I think she studied abroad, and she ended up having an affair with one of her professors, and then she found out that he was married, and it like crushed her, and she returned home from school, and her dad has just never let her live that down. And Perry is he kind of wants to help her, even though he also doesn't really like her, and he's like, you know what, fine, I'll do my duty, get my mom off my back, get my brother off my back, and like marry her. And this is the first book in a trilogy. It does end on a bit of a cliffhanger. I will continue on at some point. It's just fun seeing them fight it. And then when they're doing like engagement shoots and they're like kind of attracted to each other, but also still want to like hold on to that hate for each other. Oh, so good. Then, for Smut Club, our pick this month was Undelete Undulate by Elodie Hart. So this one is the second book in the Alchemy series. So we read Unfurl for a read-along last month, and then Cheyenne and I were like, well, we gotta do book 2 for Smut Club. It's gonna be perfect. And oh my god, it did not let us down. So this one follows Zach and Maddie. Again, you don't have to read book 1 in order to read book 2. They're just like standalones within the same series. So you obviously get background information on the club and Zach and Maddie in the first book, but you wouldn't have to read it in order to read this one. So Zach and Maddie, so Zach is a widow and a single father of 2 young girls, and he is the like money guy for Alchemy, which is a spicy club. And he is really still dealing with a lot of his grief over losing his wife. And even though he works at this spice club, that doesn't mean he like partakes. However, he has not been tempted by someone until Maddie comes along. And Maddie is the best friend of the heroine from the first book. And so the heroine in the first book books, it brings Maddie to this club and she learns about it. And Maddie is very free in herself and her sexuality and exploring things and trying things. Like, she is just all for everything. She loves what alchemy stands for, and she ends up being hired on as their like social media person. So she and Zach have to start working together, and he really tries to like not be attracted to her because he feels like he's betraying his wife in a way if he does. But eventually he just can't resist Maddie's temptations, and Maddie is very interested in Zach. She thinks that he's really hot, and she basically offers to like be a friends with benefits kind of for him, but obviously it goes deeper than that, and this is their romance. I really enjoyed this one. Book 1 is still my favorite. There's just something that I really loved about Belle and Rafe, and like I felt like they felt like true soulmates, and I really liked both their characters. I really liked both of them as well, especially Maddie. She's just a fun heroine to read about, and Zach is hot. He's so hot, and he's ready to give Maddie what she wants. I cannot wait for book 3 because we got like a glimpse of who it's gonna be. It's gonna be Genevieve's book, and I just can't wait. This is like a must-read series now for me from Elodie Hart, and honestly anything that she's gonna continue to write, I'm gonna be picking up. Like, she's an auto-buy author for me now, and loved. Next, I finished Ivy. I've been reading this book for a while, so this is the one that I buddy read a book with one of my friends almost every single month. However, Ivy's taken us a little bit longer because she was like moving and such, so we had to take a little bit more breaks, and it's a thick boy. But I finally finished it this month. So this one, so you'll either see it as Willa Nash or Devney Perry. Willa Nash is like Devney Perry's pen name for it, but obviously then like it says Devney Perry on here where it used to just say Willa Nash regardless. So this one follows 3 different couples and 3 different heroines that you get the POVs from. So you have Ivy, Elora, and Cassia. So Cassia is arriving at this university, and she moves into this big mansion that she gets offered at like a really discounted rate, and she is running from stuff in her past, and she's even changed her name. Like, she doesn't want anyone finding out that she's here, and she's running from some stuff, and she has some secrets that she just doesn't want exposed. And when she moves into this new mansion, she meets her 2 new roommates, one of whom is Ivy. And if things seem too good to be true, they probably are. And Ivy's a bit of a mean girl. She kind of has fun tormenting the new people that move into her mansion. She's very wealthy, and she just kind of like enjoys having playthings basically, and Cassia is her new plaything. And then Elora is the 3rd roommate, who she's a bit of an enigma at first. You definitely don't quite know like what kind of read to get on her. Obviously she's friends with Ivy, so you're like, I'm questioning your friendships. But also then she seems to like throw Cassia a couple of bones. So you're like, maybe she is a good one. I don't know. It follows all of them, and they all have secrets. And yeah, it's honestly kind of hard to explain, but it's definitely good. It did get a little slow at times, and like it definitely felt like the ending saved up all of the big like bombshells to kind of like drop one after another, and some things that like were building up for so long, I kind of felt like some of the payoff wasn't as good, but I did still really enjoy this book. It's the first book that I've read by Devney Perry, and I would definitely be open to reading more. Not like some of her small town stuff, just because I don't like that, but if she maybe wrote anything else with like this pen name that's a little more contemporary than like small towny, I would be into it. Next up for Out of Bounds Book Club, we read Her Master's Teacher by Lily White. So this was my second Lily White book, and I definitely really loved it. Just the way that she dives into like the psyche of her characters is so good. So this one follows Holland and Claire, and it's definitely not what I thought it was when we picked it. So this one is a student-teacher romance, older woman, younger man, and I just figured it was going a different direction than what it was. So I didn't realize that it was also captive. So Holland is a part of this secret society, and he is training to become a master. And basically what the secret society does is they take women in, they train them to be, you know, submissive, not even submissives. They train them, you know, train women to then give off to masters in this secret society. And Holland ends up taking Claire to be his trainee in order to then train her to be, you know, in the society. So, and Claire is very resistant to it, and she's a psychology professor. So while she's in this captivity, she really tries to not manipulate Holland, but like get in his head and be like, what are you doing? Like, I know that you're not like this bad guy that I'm kind of seeing here. And she's just kind of wondering, like, is there hope for him and to get him out? I don't want want to say anything more because I don't want to get into spoilery territory, but it's a wild time and definitely did not go how I expected. But very dark. Definitely, if you have any triggers, I would not recommend. I mean, there's no animal violence in here, but I wouldn't recommend anything if you have like people triggers in terms of like dub con, non-con, BDSM, very heavy into like the dom sub dynamic, but not always like consensually. I don't know. It's a wild time. It's a wild time. But Lily White's writing, like I couldn't stop turning the pages, so I did really like. Okay, last two, Locked Up Liars by Elle Thorpe. So this is a sister's boyfriend or sister's ex reverse harem romance. So this one follows May. So her sister dated this one guy named Heath for a few years, but they broken up, and or maybe not even a few years, maybe just a few months or whatever, but they broke up, and she's kind of had a thing for Heath, and she sees him out at the bar one night when she's out with her sister celebrating, and her sister is a cop, and they go home together that night. So her sister goes home and she ends up bringing Heath home, and her and Heath have a little bit of a moment, but it doesn't go like all the way. And then when she wakes up in the morning, Heath is gone. When May wakes up in the morning, Heath is gone. And when Heath wakes up in the morning, he is in May's sister's bed, and he's like, how did I get in here? Like, I definitely did not fall asleep in this room. And he also realizes that the sister, his ex, is murdered. Like, she is like stabbed, throat slit, like knife on the floor, blood everywhere. And he realizes like, oh my God, what happened? And he ends up getting framed for her murder and ends up falsely confessing to it and is in prison. And May is not going to let that fly. She like knows that he didn't do it, and she's trying to get him out. So it ends up being her romance with Heath, and then also one of the officers at the prison that like signs her in and out, because she ends up signing up to be a teacher at the prison so that way she can get closer to Heath. And it ends up being her romance with him as well, although we didn't see much develop with that romance as much. And then Liam, who is a lawyer that she knew from high school, and that is definitely the romance that's developed probably the most in this first book, is her and Liam, because they're on the outside, and she's trying to get Liam to take on Heath's case and help her out with it. This book, it's the first book in a series, I think it's 3. It ended on a cliffhanger. I am interested in continuing on for sure. I will say I didn't like love the romance in this. Like, I don't feel like her and Liam are like soulmates. I did like them, but I was kind of like, you know, whatever. I don't really care about that. I was more invested in the plot of this. So that's kind of like my thing with it, is that I think I will keep reading for the plot, not as much for the romance, but I would definitely continue on. And lastly, was this really the last book that oh yeah, because Sinful Echoes is the last book, but I already talked about that. So the last book that I have to talk about here is Mile High by Liz Tom Ford. So this audiobook got uploaded to my Hoopla, so I finally downloaded it and read it, and I really enjoyed this one. This one follows Stevie and Xander's, and it is a flight attendant athlete romance and forbidden romance, because the flight attendants are not supposed to like interact with the athletes outside of just like the work environment. There's like a no fraternization policy. So Stevie and Xander's first meet each other on the plane, and Xander's is just immediately like a dick to her. He is so rude and is like, I'll take a sparkling water with lime, and she's like, you can get it yourself. Like, he's just mean or just like rude. He's just an arrogant person. Or kind of, not really, but like at the beginning. And they kind of end up having this little bit of banter, and then as time goes on, they strike up a bit of a friendship, and then it turns into more, but obviously they're not supposed to be together. And Xander's is like the bad boy of hockey, so he does have an image to maintain, and obviously they also have to keep their relationship a secret because it is against the rules, and Stevie could end up losing her job. And Xander's contract is like up for renewal, and one of the things that like the city kind of loves about him is that he is this bad boy kind of player kind of image, and then that the other guy, his best friend on the team, is like the good family guy, so they kind of like having that dynamic. So Xander thinks he has to kind of like uphold this image. So they definitely have some things working against their relationship, but they end up falling in love anyways. And yeah, I feel like everyone has already heard about this book. It's very, very popular, and for good reason. I did really enjoy it. I really liked Stevie's character a lot. There is a third act breakup that I just was annoyed by, so honestly that is my only like gripe with it, and the fact that it's long. It's like a 600-page book. It's a long audiobook, but I did just really enjoy it. Like, I liked the audio a lot. I liked both of the narrators. I loved the characters. I loved their relationship. I loved the slow burn. It was hot. It was sweet. Stevie works at an animal shelter, and all animals end up happy at the end, which is all I want. I don't want to hear sad things about the animals. And yeah, it was a good time. And I definitely will read The Right Move. And I think I'm probably going to like The Right Move even more. Anyways, that is the 15 books that I read in May, and now I haven't even finished a single book yet in June. So I'm not going to have 15 books to wrap up in June. I can tell you that right now. So anyways, that is it for today's video. On Friday, I'm going to have like a trope recommendation video going up. But anyways, that's it for today, and I will see you when I see ya.